And the therapist turned to me and said, I'm going to do something I've never done before, which is I'm going to step out of my professional boundaries as a therapist and give you my personal opinion. And he looked at my belly and he said, are you sure that you want to have this baby? Because if you do, this man will forever be ducking in and out of your life. And not just you, but you, your children, your whole family. I'm Sara Jane Ho, and this is Mind Your Manners, where no topic is off limits as we uncover the secrets to feeling at ease in every situation. Hey everyone, it's me, Sara Jane Ho, and I have over here my friend and producer, Kelsey Meyer, who's here to provide emotional support.
Yeah, exactly.
For this episode. If you listen to the previous episode, Normalize It, How Sharing Your Story Changes Everything with Dr. Jessica Zucker, you will know that I briefly mentioned that I had a secret abortion, which I faked as a miscarriage, and to most people denied ever being pregnant. And then I moved on. But something didn't sit right with me after that interview, right, Kelsey?
Yeah, I mean, I think, and we've talked about this a little bit, like I don't think that you gave it the space, right, to like actually, like that was a lot to say, I mean, on camera to everyone, like that's something you've kept for a very
10 years.
long time. And I think that like it was so beautiful and brave to share. But for the sake of the episode and kind of just like how you've come up, it was like, oh, and on to the next, right? And I think that's why you really wanted to do, and I totally agree, like this episode to actually give it the space that it deserves. But I'm excited for you to get into it because I know there's so much. Yeah, there's so much there.
There's so much to unpack.
Yeah.
So let's begin. Okay, so I guess that we might as well start off with the secret itself. I'm 39 today. When I was 29, I was in a relationship with an abusive man. And I got pregnant and I had a secret abortion. It was pretty traumatic because I was 3 months along, so I actually had to go to the hospital. And at the same time, I had to lie to him and fake a miscarriage in order to protect my own personal safety. But it was a choice I made with clarity, and I knew it was the right one. And to this day, I have no regrets, but it's still heavy. I actually didn't tell anyone that I had this abortion except for my father, my stepmother, and my two closest people to me in Beijing at that time, who were by my side at the hospital to help me see this through. My dad and my stepmom were in Hong Kong, and you know there were maybe a couple dozen people who knew that I was pregnant. To them, I said I had a miscarriage. That lie it sounded softer. It felt less shameful. It felt easier for others to hear. And I think the reason for that is because when you say miscarriage, it doesn't sound like it was your decision.
Right.
Whereas an abortion is very much your own decision. And you know, you are ending a heartbeat.
And something that, you know, you actually have talked about this, and I feel like you might get to it. Like most people don't talk about abortions and having abortions, and I feel like especially in the Asian culture, like it's not a talked about thing, really. And so, for you being who you were, and in the like career path, also you were in like this whole idea of perfection, like that made it seem unperfect to say that, right? For some.
Yeah, like
whack
stained,
reason,
like,
but yeah, it was, you know, societally it was not okay, which is a whole nother issue. But right, so I get that for you, that you were like, okay, this is going to be easier to say that, which that's so much to carry though, right?
Yeah.
On top of doing what you had to do.
That's right. And I carried that for 10 years.
Yeah.
But inside, I always knew the truth. And I also knew why I wasn't ready to tell it. And I guess, like, if you look at my background, right, and we talked about sort of, being raised in an Asian household, I grew up in a Chinese household. I grew up in Hong Kong. Hong Kong is very, very conservative. In many ways, even more conservative than mainland China. And as a daughter, you quickly learn what's expected of you. Grace, excellence, discretion, keep it together, don't bring shame to the family. And there's this unspoken contract where, well, you could actually, you really shouldn't even be emotional in Chinese households, let alone messy. You, as a woman, you shouldn't even really be that strong, let alone defiant. And your value is deeply tied to how well you represent your family. I would say that my family, given my parents both actually had a Western education, it was less traditional and less conservative than most. But, you're a product of your environment, right? And my mom was a tiger mom. My mom was, and she would even say things like, if you did this, you would be perfect. Why don't you do that?
Oof. That's heavy.
And so I always tried to be the daughter who made the right decisions, or at least looked like she made the right decisions. And telling people I had an abortion just didn't fit that script. In fact, even saying that I was pregnant before being legally married just didn't fit that script. Of course, now I have friends in Europe who have families without even getting married.
Of course.
And that's very accepted now. But not in my world, not in Hong Kong. And remember, at this point, I was in Beijing teaching etiquette to some of the most successful and privileged women in China, right? Some of the most high-profile women in China, who would tell me that the reason they came to the school was because they wanted to know how to better raise their daughters, or because they wanted their daughters to literally follow in my footsteps, to attend the same schools, to play the same sports, do the same hobbies. They would say, Sarah, you're the perfect daughter.
That's a lot to live up to.
And and from the outside, it also looked like I had the perfect boyfriend.
Right.
And you've also shared your story. I mean, a lot of my friends have actually been in abusive relationships.
Yep. Well, yeah, go ahead. But I was going to say, I actually think most women have been in at least one, and we're not talking you don't need to put hands on a person, but emotional abuse. I think I was even learning this last week that I have a friend who's in one now that I'm like, oh, geez, I think most women have been in one, and it's awful.
And it is a sliding scale. There is a spectrum.
Absolutely.
And I've been in relationships where sort of they were maybe just more controlling, but then this relationship was literally
hands on you. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he didn't physically hurt me yet. What's funny actually is that after we broke up, his friends reached out to me and said, "Thank God you broke up with him. His girlfriend from high school, they ended up going to university together, and he beat her up, and she was in hospital."
You told me this, and I, being the little feisty person I am, it makes me so freaking mad, actually, that they told you that after you broke up. I think that is so wrong. I think that is not a friend. I'm just
they were his friends.
I know, but I'm oh, so if anyone's listening, help your friends. That's heavy too. Holy cow.
Yeah. And abusive men are very charming. So
of course, charismatic. That's their whole thing. They're narcissists.
Charismatic, yes. And so to the outside world, and he was tall. He was handsome. He knew what to say, what to do. Yeah. From the outside, it looked like I had the perfect life, had everything. But behind closed doors, he was jealous. He was possessive. He was an alcoholic.
Yeah.
Actually, he was an alcoholic, and when he would drink, he would go on a rage. He would break things in the house. He would threaten to break more things. He would threaten to hurt me. He locked me in a room. He took away my phone. I mean, and he was a big guy, and it was very, very scary. And I, at the same time, I never wanted to see myself as a victim. And because I am a strong woman, and I do believe I determine my own life and my own destiny. So I was really in denial. And then, of course, at the same time, you know, I'd say I wanted to leave, and then he would apologize and say he was going to change, right? It's like that back and forth, back and forth.
Always. And you want to believe them.
Yes.
So you're like, okay,
Yeah.
show me. And they're calculated and they're charming, so you actually do believe them. Yeah, it's hard. It's really hard. You're also so young. Like, let's be real. 29 is still so young. And like you said, societally, you wanted to fit in this box. And it seemed like you could do it if only he were to change. So you're like trying to make everything work, even if it is that abuse. And also, oftentimes when you're in abusive relationships, you don't actually know it's abuse. Like, they mess with your head so much that you just shrink yourself to be smaller and smaller and smaller, and you think that that's normal and okay. So that's a whole nother thing, right? Like, you don't even know that you need to necessarily get out of it.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, by that point, I knew it was abuse.
You knew. But even
it was still really hard.
Yeah.
And he also cheated on me. And which a lot of abusive men do.
Yep.
And it wasn't until, and by the way, I never told anybody about the abuse. I told maybe like one or two friends, but never told my parents or my family or anything. So they saw how unhappy I was. They saw that I was like crying all the time, but they thought maybe it was more of my issue. That's also Chinese parents sometimes. Like, my parents are always the first.
What did you do?
Yeah, what did you do?
Oh my gosh.
So
That's so heavy.
And it wasn't until we went to a couples therapist, and we found an American man as a couples therapist in Beijing. And so me and we went to go see him, and I think it maybe like 4 or 5 sessions in, my abusive partner stood up. He accused the therapist of siding with me on something, stood up and started raining verbal abuse at the top of his voice to our therapist. And I was shocked, because usually they're very good at hiding it, right, behind closed doors and like putting on a show. Mm-hmm. But I was like, whoa, I was in disbelief. I was just, and at this point I was pregnant, by the way. So because we were trying to make it work, like I was pregnant, I was 3 months pregnant. And I'm sitting there, he stands up, goes over to the therapist, rains abuse on him, shouting at the top of his voice, leaves. Me and the therapist go to the window. We're like, what will he do? He leaves, takes my car, because he had moved from Hong Kong to Beijing. So, it was like sort of, he moved into my setup. Took the car, drove away. Just left me there. And then the therapist turned to me. By the way, the therapist is 6'3" and a former football player. Right. So he's a big guy.
So to be screaming this at him,
Yeah, American white, like really buff guy. And the therapist turned to me and said, I'm going to do something I've never done before, which is I'm going to step out of my professional boundaries as a therapist and give you my personal opinion. And he looked at my belly and he said, are you sure that you want to have this baby? Because if you do, this man will forever be ducking in and out of your life. And not just you, but you, your children, your whole family. And that was the biggest wake-up call for me. And I said, you have to help me. You have to help me. What should I do? And he said, I've already done too much by even just saying that. Who is your closest friend in Beijing? And I said, my friend Xiao Xiao, she's like a sister to me. And he said, call her and go to her house now, call her and think of a plan, and then call your father. And so that's what we did. And so I was sitting on her sofa and we made this plan. And remember, I was 3 months. Like, the cutoff for an abortion is 3 months.
Yeah.
Where like it's not necessarily a pill anymore. It might have to be like a DNC. Yeah. And then, so we had Xiao Xiao, and I had another friend, my business partner who I was running my etiquette school with, Rebecca, who to this day is my partner for that. And so we had to do this in secret because I feared for my life. I even gave my ID to my housekeeper. And because I read this online, in fact, and it said like abusive partners will try and control you. They'll take away your ID. They'll confiscate your ID. He tried to confiscate my phone, remember? So they really try to wall you off.
Yep. Well, they make you feel like you need them, right? You're dependent on them.
Right. And And so then I started, found the hospital, found the doctor. I started taking the pills at home at night because you have to take the pills for a certain number of days to stop the heartbeat.
Yeah.
And remember, I was still sleeping in the same bed as this guy because my main goal was like I couldn't do anything out of place, right?
And couldn't
because
make it seem weird. Yeah.
Couldn't make him suspect anything because
Yeah.
abusive men are also extremely sensitive and they're very suspicious.
You're walking on eggshells. Yeah.
And I was so sad. It was so difficult. It was so hard, but I knew I had to do it. And then he had just found a job at a startup in Beijing, so he would leave in the morning to go to work. And then on one of the mornings, that was when I went to the hospital for the final day. Thank God we didn't have to end up doing an operation. But it was, I was there in a hospital room with my two closest friends in Beijing going through this. One of them was on the phone with my father, right, giving them an update. My father and stepmother were preparing to fly into Beijing at some point, but they also didn't want to fly in because they knew it would raise suspicion.
Yep.
So I told them, don't come, it's going to raise suspicion. And then when it was all done, then we called my abusive partner and told him it was a miscarriage. And we had to do that because otherwise I think he would have killed me. He would have done something to me physically.
Yeah. It's just, I mean, how did he react? That's my
volatile. Yeah. I mean, sad, volatile. And believe it or not, that night, because I had to spend a couple nights in the hospital, and I also wanted to stay there longer just to be safe away from him. Again, I said something that triggered him and made him start yelling at me, where I had to press the alarm and the nurse had to come in and take him away. It was crazy.
So when you did it, were you immediate this was the right decision?
Yes.
Yeah. And isn't that funny that he continued to show you after that this was the right decision?
Yeah. And then afterwards, I had to make it fly in both sets of parents, right? Under the guise it was a miscarriage.
Yeah.
We need your support. But I really flew in both sets of parents to fly in his parents to take him away. Because I tried to break up with him so many times, and abusive partners don't let you break up with them.
Yeah. No, they don't. But the timeline, just because I'm curious, you tell him this, and then right away you're kind of like, we got to be done.
Well, I didn't say we're going to be done.
Yeah.
I waited till the families came.
We're there.
And then I took aside his mother, and I said, I'm not going to tell you. We were at a family lunch, and I took her out to a private area.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm not going to tell you all the terrible things your son has done to me, but you have a daughter. My abusive partner had a sister. I was like, you have a daughter. How would you feel if your daughter had to go through all of this? You know what she said to me? She said, I know my son's temper.
Oof. That's scary.
And they took him away.
Holy shit.
Back to Hong Kong. And so many times he tried to change. I almost forgave him again and took him back again and was weak again. But thank God, ultimately I held strong.
Yeah, that's really hard.
And then I moved away from Beijing and I moved to Shanghai because I didn't want him to know my address anymore.
I was going to say, did you ever hear from him again?
Yeah, I blocked him on most things, and then he emailed me a couple times.
That's what happened to me.
Yeah,
they're very clever.
Very, very clever.
I'm like, damn, okay, email. Yeah.
And there's a phrase in Chinese called 轻松无比, which is freedom like never before. And it was so painful, those few weeks. But then once I was done, I was so done, and I felt free as a bird. I felt like I was soaring.
Yeah.
And I threw myself into my work. We opened up a Shanghai branch of the school.
Yeah.
And I started traveling around China like crazy, threw myself into my work, and work was doing very, very well. Yeah.
But it's so funny, and I just want to actually, on that note of work was doing well, I think most people don't think that, women like you go through that type of thing, right? Women like you who seem so successful, so perfect, so this, so that, don't have abusive partners, B, don't have to go through something as massive as that. And it's just point blank, they do. And most of them actually do. And we've all experienced this, but it doesn't matter if you're super successful and you still dealt with that, and like it still happens, you know. And I think that, like what I said before, but like you're so brave for even sharing that and just like bringing light to that yeah, you can, successful women who are incredible, like this still happens to them.
But I still felt shame. I felt like, how could I be
course.
so wrong about somebody?
That's interesting.
How could I make such poor decision
Sure.
about my partner?
But I think a lot of them are like gravitate towards women, like towards strong women who they can manipulate.
Yeah.
I literally was having this conversation with someone the other day where similar, she's like badass in entertainment, and she's like, why does this keep happening to me, right? And her therapist was saying that like they gravitate towards the strong women who they can manipulate, because we're so in our masculine in work, right? That like we just want to be in our feminine in relationships, and these type of like men make you feel so, at first they love bomb you, they do whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like you feel so, oh my gosh, I'm in this fairy tale, and then whoop, and then you're in it.
Yeah. And then it's so freaking hard to get out.
Yeah.
So for me, I mean, I'm trying to think about why I hid it and why I lied. A lot of people in Hong Kong heard that I was pregnant because, you know, our friend group and
Sure.
this and that. And I remember actually for one of my friends, who's a decent friend of mine, afterwards, we met up in Beijing just a couple weeks later, and she said, you know, in Hong Kong, everybody's talking about how you're pregnant. And at that point, my waist was actually pretty small at that point. And I even wore like a crop top. And I was like, but I'm not. And so basically I lied to my friend, pretending like I was never even pregnant. And I lied because I feared how people would see me.
Perceive you. Sure.
And I felt like I wanted to protect myself from judgment, from rejection, and from disappointing people.
Yeah.
But like you said, it became this quiet burden that I carried for the next 10 years of my life.
And the body keeps the score. That's all stored in there. Well, and also too, and I want to go back to even like the choice of, you know, terminating, right? It's like, that's, you were saying before, it is a soul. It is a whole
It is a soul. I believe it is a soul. And
Yeah.
That was the most difficult thing for me
Yeah.
to grapple with. When the baby came out, like I didn't look at it.
Yeah.
Because I've always been raised also with like feng shui principles, like don't look at things where their soul has left them. And I just didn't want to. He, on the other hand, went and inspected the thing, like which to me was like, oh my gosh. And I have to say, I had a really great group of girlfriends in Beijing who, they didn't know it was a miscarriage. They didn't know it was an abortion because I'd said it was a miscarriage, but they rallied around me, and immediately, like my friend, you know, immediately she was sending me soups, TCM herbal soups that you have in confinement. So usually, like after a woman postpartum, she's in the sort of, it's called the sitting month, where it's 30 days of confinement where you stay home and you drink nourishing soups. And whether or not you give birth to a live baby or you have a miscarriage or an abortion, you're still supposed to nourish your body like that. So straight away her driver was sending me like on a daily basis.
Sweet, that's sweet.
These soups. My friend Yo-Yo, she took me to the Buddhist temple because, like you said, I mean, I felt like I had ended a soul.
Yeah.
I had ended a heartbeat. I had like ended a life. And that was the hardest thing I had to grapple with. And she took me to the temple and just sat with me while we listened to like monks chanting. And we would just be sitting there for hours. And she just sat with me. And I'm so grateful to her for that. Yeah.
Well, I think too that like, and you and I have spoken briefly about this, but like that baby, I mean, it saved your life though, right? And I don't think that souls, I think when people pass, they're still very much with us. And I think that soul is still very much with you. And you made the choice. You had to do what you had to do. And I do think that child would have had a really hard life in the situation that it would have come up in. And I think that A, they're still with you, and B, it saved you. Like you saved each other in that sense, you know? And I think that that's not a normal way really to think about those types of things, because societally it's, nope, you made a bad decision, or you made a right or wrong decision. There's no in between, right?
Yeah.
And I just think that, like, yeah, you're brave, and like also kudos to that therapist who.
Yeah. I actually forgot his name. I was like trying to find his name so I could thank him on this episode.
Yeah.
And I lost his contact. It was so long ago. And, you know, the things you just said now, like, I think really it's just this year that I've kind of seen this turning point. I mean, like, the shift didn't come overnight for me to be where I am today about this. It came in layers. Like, first there was talk therapy, right?
Yeah.
And then since I moved to LA a year ago, I've been doing a lot of spiritual healing. Most of the spiritual healing has started this year.
Yeah.
Which you and I talk about a lot.
Yeah.
And also just being in LA or being in America, where, like, America's a space where women tell their stories without shame, at least relative to other countries.
Yeah.
And I want that same freedom.
And everyone deserves that same freedom.
So here's the interesting thing. Like, before this experience, I actually was not very sympathetic to women who were in abusive relationships.
Interesting.
And I would just say things like, well, just leave. Just leave. Like, just get out. Like, why would you why would you stay with somebody like that?
That's not uncommon. Most people who haven't been in it say that.
Which was such an insensitive way for me to think in my 20s.
Yeah.
And so I almost feel like the universe energetically, like, put me through that.
Totally.
Right? For me to be like, okay, like, whoa, I'm in this, in a situation where I previously had judged other women or men. I have plenty of guy friends who've been with abusive female partners.
Totally.
And like, that had to break me. And now, especially in a place like mainland China, where domestic abuse is 4 times as common as that of America, and that's reported.
Holy cow.
I am such a beacon of support now, like sympathy and support, and I can connect to women on such a deeper level.
Absolutely.
Because of this.
Well, and doing what you do and being a public figure and public-facing person, like, you are so much more relatable and authentic, and you can connect on that. You're not just, like, up here and everyone's following you. Like, you're like, no.
Like, I'm down here in the trenches.
You're here. You're with everyone, right?
Yeah.
Which is what we need, you know, and it just makes you, it puts you on, I think it puts you on a different level because you're able to connect so well with people.
So I'm grateful to Dr. Jessica Zucker.
Yeah.
Because that opportunity, like her coming into my life, I felt was divinely guided, and telling the truth lifted something off my chest. It also leaves me feeling very exposed, because there's a vulnerability hangover that comes with honesty, right? Like, even right now, I'm sitting here in my seat and I'm wondering, who will judge me? Will someone weaponize this against me? Will I lose someone's respect? But then I remember why I'm doing this, and I'm doing it for the girl that I was when I was 29 years old. And I'm doing it for the woman who messaged me after last week's episode dropped saying, I thought I was the only one. And I'm doing it because shame thrives in silence, and I'm done feeling ashamed, and I'm done being silent.
Like, mic drop. But truly, and also the thing is, people will judge you. They're gonna. They will. They'll judge. People judge every day, and it's like I don't know why we've become so accustomed to taking that in and making that part of our personality. Something that I'm working on, and I'm sitting here with you. It's helping me too, because I'm like, I'm sorry. Why am I letting you dictate who I am and how I live? Like, no. And so, they will judge you. And you know what? Great. Let them. Like, let them. Because
that's what Mel Robbins says, right?
That's right. That's
her
right.
Her new book is Let Them.
That's right. Shout out, Mel. Shout out, girl. But I mean, but truly, because you're doing it for you and you're doing it for so many other people. So people will judge you, and okay, thank you.
Yeah. And you know, I was in the car yesterday listening to Kabbalah and David Guillaume, and he said it was he was saying it to a different student, but it really applies to my situation too. He said that anyone who hears, basically what I learned is anyone who hears my story is someone that I've helped or someone that I'm helping. And sometimes when people go through very painful situations like mine, it means that my soul is meant now to help many other souls who went through something similar. I'm someone who's gone through it, but I'm now also receiving tools and wisdom. And if you don't help people, you won't be able to truly forgive everything, including yourself. That you'll only feel at peace if you've done your correction, which is to help other people. So now I've realized actually all that pain that I went through is in fact the power that I have to help people today.
Absolutely. You're doing it.
Yeah. I mean, this is, it's interesting how this podcast has evolved for me.
Totally.
Initially, I was just thinking, yeah, I'm just going to interview people on things that
Coach them.
interest me, or, I got my first gray hair. Yeah. Okay, reversing gray hair.
Yeah.
We have but it's just become so deep and so transformative for me, and it's become very
healing,
confronting. Yeah, healing and confronting, which is healing for me, and I hope that it is that way for my listeners and viewers too, and that if you have any questions or comments, please send them to me because I read them.
Yeah,
I read every single one.
She does.
I really do.
And I want to say really quickly to you on that, I'm so grateful to be a part of this journey with you, and from the beginning, I've watched you evolve. I even told you after, you're a different person from when I met you to now. I think a very, very different person. You're always in there, but even I'm like, oh my gosh, you're so much softer now. I think a lot of what you carry, and I think most women, I know I have so many jagged edges because of shit that I've gone through that I haven't healed. And I look at you and I'm like, you're such an inspiration to me, where I'm like, oh wow, look at you. You're so much lighter and I think softer and happier because of all this healing that you've done. And I've just seen an evolution of you within this show and you being in LA the last year too. So I'm proud of you. And I'm grateful to be a part of that.
Living in Shanghai, living in Beijing, especially a place like Hong Kong, which is so materialistic. But there's a lot of focus on physical growth, but not a lot on spiritual growth. And of course, there's feng shui, there's Buddhism, there's Taoism, but somehow it really was not till I came to LA. And I've realized spiritual work is so important. And the ability to raise your own vibration, raise your own frequency, and then to give that to people around you is actually the most powerful thing.
So true.
So, listeners out there, I guess the reason of why I'm sharing my story today is I want to say, if you've ever felt like you had to carry a secret to protect your image or your family or your cultural expectations, I want you to know that I see you. You're not less, you're not dirty, you're not broken. Sometimes we have to do what we have to do to survive, to belong, to stay safe, and that's okay. I'm not saying you should run out and tell everybody everything. I just want you to know that anything you feel like you're losing by telling the truth isn't actually a loss. It's an alignment. People will hold different versions of you in their mind, and that's okay. So whenever you're ready, whenever you feel strong enough, there is something sacred in telling the truth, not for other people, but for yourself. And Kelsey, I still love my culture, right? I still love Chinese culture. I still love my hometown of Hong Kong, no matter how conservative or judgmental it can be. I still believe in respect and dignity and carrying yourself with grace, but I do also believe that we need new definitions of grace, ones that include honesty, emotion, and most importantly, imperfection.
Absolutely. And I'm giggling over here because I just got Grace in Italian tattooed on my arm. Literally.
Oh my gosh.
Grazia.
Grazia. Grace.
Literally. It's something I talk about all the time, if not weekly, in therapy. And I totally agree with you. I think that we've gotten so black and white and right and wrong. And it's like, whoa, how did we get so extreme here? We absolutely need new definitions, and both can exist. You can still love your culture and you can still feel a certain way about not having to carry shame, you know, both can exist.
Yeah, like for me, I feel like I can still be a good daughter and I can still break the silence.
Absolutely.
By the way, like my dad doesn't know I'm dropping this episode, and he like listens from top to bottom. He's probably gonna have a heart attack.
Yeah. I know. Please don't.
Thank God my stepmother is there. She's very good at consoling him.
I think he'll be proud of you too, actually. I do. He might surprise you. Let him surprise you.
Dad, I know you're gonna have a heart attack.
Don't.
So yeah, and I want to honor my ancestors. I want to honor my parents, but I still want to rewrite the narrative. And like you said, like you can love your culture and still evolve it. I actually just finished reading one of Oprah's books. It's titled "What I Know for Sure." It's so profound. I highly recommend it to anybody who's looking to get a toehold into spiritual work or the meaning of life. And she says that what she learned was that holding shame was the greatest burden of all. And when you have nothing to be ashamed of, when you know who you are and what you stand for, you stand in wisdom.
So true. Oof.
So I think that's something pretty good to end on.
Yeah.
Thank you all for listening. Thank you for holding space for this version of me. If any part of my story resonates with you, if you've been holding a truth you weren't ready to speak, I hope this episode gives you permission to move closer to that moment of freedom. And remember, no matter what life throws at you, with me in your ear, you got this.